maybe I want to support signal that it's in support of the Soros conspiracies so that they come and watch the video and realize that they're completely wrong. I don't know what's the I don't know what's the better strategy.
I believe
I
that's
don't
what's
think that.
called. I believe that's what's called pulling a Drea.
But I believe we're live. I'm gonna listen to make sure the audio is fine. I believe we're live. I'm gonna listen.
Oh,
Perfect. Looks like the audio is playing, which means we're live. Welcome, universe, to the stream today. We have a full house again, so I will. There's a fly buzzing around my head apparently. uh, we have a full house here today, so I guess we'll start with Elrond. Say hi.
hello.
And Ken, say hi.
Hi, it's me.
And Vienno, say hi.
Hello. And also inform the fly in your room that it is November, it's time to die.
I think that is an accurate. I mean, I'm drinking a grapefruit radler, which is usually a refreshing summer drink, but I felt like bringing that energy back to the dreary November that we're experiencing right now. Now, with all that being said, what we're going to be showing is a video by Keean Bexte, the Rebel News employee who often harasses people in the street. That's his claim to fame. I mean, let's be honest. That's all their claim to fame. That's pretty much all they do is harass people in the street. And we're going to get a bit of that in this episode as well. But it's also worth reminding that Keean Bexte is a terrible racist who is actually suing Canada Land right now for them calling him a racist, but it's a pretty accurate statement considering that he used to work for a company that would sell white nationalist merchandise, I guess, including Rhodesian flags. You know, Rhodesia being the state that subjugated African people that is now called Zimbabwe today. So, yeah, an asshole, a racist. I think those are both adequate statements that can apply to him. And we're going to get to his video going over the Dominion voting systems. So, for those who haven't been following along in American political, the lore of the American political debate that occurred recently with your election, Sidney Powell, who was a lawyer at some point for the Trump administration, and Rudy Giuliani gave a press conference a couple weeks ago. I think everyone will remember it because it's the one where his hair dye was slowly dripping down his face. uh, during that press conference, Sidney Powell, who was one of the lawyers, made some claim that Dominion voting systems is somehow connected to Hugo Chavez, and therefore, because it's connected to Hugo Chavez, the election must be a fraud, and somehow this system created a bunch of extra votes for Biden, right? So it created the votes for Biden, thus election fraud, thus we have to overturn the whole election, according to Sidney Powell. Now, it turns out that there's a Canadian connection. And that's because Dominion Voting Systems has an office in Toronto. And actually, its office in Toronto is connected to this other thing that Sidney Powell brought up, which is that Dominion Voting System is somehow connected to George Soros. And so this is Keean Bexte is going to be doing his cutting-edge journalism to get to the bottom of this connection between Dominion Voting Systems and George Soros. Now, before we get to that, I did want to share one thing, which is a bit of schadenfreude. And that is, for anyone following what's happening in Canada right now, obviously COVID is increasing, bad things are happening, but there's this asshole out of Etobicoke who's been holed up at he has a barbecue place, and he is refusing to shut it down because of the lockdowns. So Peel Region, for those who don't know, the Toronto area, it's under a lockdown right now because their COVID cases are skyrocketing. So they want to shut it down. But this guy, Adam, is just refusing to do it. And he keeps getting arrested and doing all these crazy shenanigans. And in the fray, something happened And I want to show that with the world in just 1 second. Here, let me pull it up. So this is a tweet by Tony, YVCE, the Yellow Vest Canada Exposed. They're an awesome group. I've used a lot of their work. I continue to promote them. Go give Tony a follow. He's an awesome fellow. But here's what we're going to watch. Okay, so I'm going to full screen it. Those on the voice chat can't hear it, but I think you've already seen it because I shared it in the Discord. But here's a little schadenfreude for everyone at home. So you can see there's some fighting going on. And you can see this guy right here. You can see his hat. Stupid David Menzies hat. And they're fighting the police. Oh, and David Menzies falls on the ground. Rest in peace, David Menzies. I love it. You can hear somebody in the crowd go, "Oh, are you okay, Menzies?" So Menzies was okay. But I just love, like, look at this chaos. Them trying to force their way into this building. And the police barely pushing back. And the thing that really annoys me about that, obviously, is you can see how the police have treated Black Lives Matter protests. And they use almost no restraint at all. They just shoot them with rubber bullets, tear gas them, beat the hell out of them, arrest them, throw them in unmarked vans, and all of that fun stuff. And they even did some of that stuff in Montreal, so it's not just an American explicit thing. And if some of the rallies in Ontario got bigger or got a little out of hand, I highly doubt that the police would have held back here either. But in this case, a bunch of white people a little upset that their building is being prevented from being open. And of course, the police let these people without masks yell and shout in their faces and do absolutely nothing about it. So, great. But I do like the fact that David Menzies fell over, and we will celebrate that for the most part. Hello, Aronok in the chat. I'm doing fine. How is everyone else doing? I guess Aronok asked the question. Should all talk over each other right now.
I'm alive. That's about it.
Yes, we're all surviving the COVID catastrophe. All right. Shall we get into it? Are we ready? Are we ready to crack the code and expose the deep state conspiracy? Are we ready?
I've never been more ready in my life.
I'm ready.
All right, here it goes.
Yesterday we broke some pretty stunning news.
Oh my god!
Whoa.
I had it on 2x speed earlier today, so there we go.
That's
Fixed it.
impressive, impressive oration for that guy.
Look, we were exposing the deep state so hardcore, it sped up time.
Jody just thinks that fast.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, like, I like to go over the videos just a couple of times, just to get the feel for it, right? And so, eventually when I listen to it once at, like, normal speed, I get the gist. And so I can listen to it on 2x speed. I don't need to, just need to get the essence of what's going on. And hello, Liz in the chat. All right. So now we're officially going to start it. We're breaking the deep. We're figuring it out. We're going to uncover the Chi-Coms. Actually, this one is this is Soros. There we go.
Yesterday we broke some pretty stunning news standing outside of this very building. If you recognize it, it is the headquarters of Dominion Voting in Toronto, Canada. Why they're headquartered here? Well, that's a great question to ask. The story we broke yesterday is that they were sharing an office floor, not just an office building, but an office floor with George Soros's Tides Foundation here in Canada. We were lucky enough to catch the evidence before it was able to be deleted. We even checked on that box right there to prove that, yes, Tides Canada was here.
So I'm going to back that up a bit. So you can tell what the Tides Canada. Look, we go up to the call system that you punch into the thing, and it brings it up. Tides Canada. They were in this building, and they shared the building, the same floor, mind you, with Dominion Voting Systems. Now, to fill in a bit of the blanks here, Dominion Voting Systems, they're a company that produces voting software and then, sells it to states that want to hold elections. basically, right? Or even, my guess is like unions who want to hold elections, they just create voting software, right? Now, a lot of the states that are currently under, or that the Trump administration is trying to claim there was fraud, so, you have your Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin. All these places, in fact, used software by Dominion voting systems. Okay? But here's the thing, is like, really, for example, let me create an analogy here. Say you purchase Windows 90 or Microsoft Word, right? So you have this software that you can use on your computer. Like, Microsoft sold you that software, but they don't have like access to what you do with it anymore, right? So what's happening here is they're trying to connect this conspiracy theory to Dominion voting system. But Dominion voting system is just selling people the software, but they don't have access to the votes. They don't have access to the voting rules. They don't have the ability to change like the numbers. So it's almost like their conspiracy theory is that somehow Dominion voting systems crafted a software that they knew ahead of time was going to switch some of these votes. And like some of these states, their legislatures, who are Republican held, either bought this software unknowing that this is going to happen, and it like got past the certification process, and yet still contains something that was able to manipulate these votes.
Sorry, just to check one thing. In your analogy, did you really almost say Windows 98 or something?
I was going to say Windows 95. Yeah, I think we were talking about it the other day, so it's stuck in my head.
You are dating yourself.
Yeah. Windows
Did
95.
Windows 95 come out in 95?
Yes. That was actually
So it's older than me.
Oh my god, it's older than you. That was that was the first computer that my family ever had, was one with Windows 95 on it. And I remember
MS-DOS.
Operating system.
Sorry, what was that, Ken?
I was just yelling MS-DOS represents.
Was it... I do remember the cool thing about that computer too was that it came with a disc with like a bunch of random shit on it, and one of them was the music video for Buddy Holly by Weezer because it had just come out. And I guess somehow they like cross-platformed with Microsoft, and so everyone who bought a Windows 95 computer in Canada, I guess, or maybe all over the place, you got access to the Buddy Holly music video by Weezer.
It's like the OG version of when people downloaded or got that iPhone with the U2 album nobody wanted.
Yeah. But cooler, because it's Weezer. No one likes you. Who likes U2? I don't know. U2's not my thing. And hello, Nick in the chat. All right, so all we know so far is we figured out that Dominion Voting Systems, it's in the same building with Tides Canada. So Tides Canada is the other end of the conspiracy theory. They're going to connect it back to George Soros, and we'll get to that in a second. But for now, all you need to know is there's this number pad that shows that Tides Canada is showing up, and they shared a office space with Dominion Voting Systems in America. An American... I don't even know if they're American, but they're a voting software creating company that was used in the American elections.
Here, and so is Dominion Voting, sharing an office floor. Now, unfortunately, that was after they removed the physical signage from inside. Yeah, Dominion Voting and Tides Canada, they asked the landlords here to remove any physical mention of their name. They missed that call box, but they removed the signs. You can see it here. We got it all recorded.
Could you tell us one thing, though? We know that Dominion Voting is Unit 360, and right next to them at 370 is Tides. And on this board, it's been removed, and we're wondering why that was removed. That was
removed at the request of the tenant. So
that was removed at the request of the tenants.
Now,
I love how chill this guy is. He's just like, yeah, it was removed at the request of the tenants. Why are you recording? And they label him a building manager. I don't know to what extent that's true. But, so this is something that's not going to be covered in Keean's video. Although I will say, so this video that we're watching currently, it premiered on November 20th. All right? Now, here is an article from the Rebel News. It's titled, Dominion Voting Shares Office with Far-Left George Soros-Linked Group by Keean Bexte. And this article on their website is dated November 17th. Okay? Now, there's an update. The update was on November 18th, so it's still before they released that video we're watching currently on their platform. The November 18th update says, after publication of this news story, so the day before, which was the 17th, Tides Canada contacted us by email. They state they moved out of the office building last year. Although their name remains on the building door entry system.
Called it. Flippin' called it.
And so, even Rebel knew this information, and yet still, they don't mention that in the video that we're currently watching on the screen right now.
Oh, Keean.
Yeah.
Keean, you're lying to us.
I will also say, for clarity's sake, Tides Canada is no longer called Tides Canada. They're called Makeway. They haven't been Tides Canada since, I think, June, and they changed their name primarily because of all the conspiracy theories that surround them. And again, we'll get to that in a second. But the important part is they're not called Tides Canada, yet even here, they constantly refer to them as Tides Canada over and over again because they want to make this link to the Tides Foundation, which they believe is some sort of George Soros funded organization that's radical lefty commie stuff. But again, here's then you got to think of what this conspiracy entails. The Tides Foundation has been out of this building for a year. So what you have to think is that somehow a year ago, the Tides Foundation and Dominion Voting Systems were conspiring together a year ago to somehow rig the election for Joe Biden before he even won the primary and all that fun stuff. Or that merely being in this building together a year ago, they somehow came up with some sort of nefarious plan. So just keep that in mind while we're watching the rest of this video.
Why would they do that? What were they trying to hide? Well, that's exactly
what were they
we
trying to
wanted
hide?
ask. We left them voicemails, we left them emails, and actually the only one that bothered to get back to us was Tides, and they got back to us saying that they actually didn't know who Dominion Voting was until, well, this.
So we'll get to the email in a second. But again, notice they keep referring it to Tides, and even the Tides company responded to them as Makeway. You can see that on the screen, right? But the other thing is, okay, so in the lobby, Dominion Voting Systems probably asked to have their name taken off of the wall. I'll just, propose the question to all of you. Why do you think the company would want to remove their name tag from the wall in recent times? Why do you think they would want to do that?
To avoid individuals such as Keean.
Exactly, to avoid harassment. Because in fact, Dominion Voting Systems now, all over the place where they have offices, are now receiving death threats. So of course, they want to minimize their front-facing operations such that their staff and employees feel safe. Which, I don't know about you, seems pretty reasonable to me. Not some sort of nefarious plan, right? But
What's Keean's email there? I can't quite make it out.
Oh, it's Keean at rebelnewsnetworkmail.com. It says rnnmail.com. But...
Wow, that's a terrible flippin' email address.
Yeah. But I do love, so we're gonna hear what Keean is gonna highlight from this email that he posts on the screen, and then we'll address what he leaves out.
I find that a little hard to believe. They've been in the news so much, and sharing an office floor, it's hard to not know who your neighbors are, who's working right next to you. Now, many...
So he focuses on the first line, which is, Hi, Keean. To be clear, we never worked with or shared office space with Dominion Voting. Actually, we had never heard of them before this. So again, you're going back a year in time. And I don't know how many of you have worked in an office building, but there's several other, companies in the same building as you. You don't share like the same room, right? You might share a hallway to get to where your offices are, but like that's it, right? And so, you might be friendly with other people in the adjacent companies, but it doesn't mean you have to know everything about what goes on with them, right? And so they're like, yeah, okay, we've didn't know that Dominion was in the same building with us, and we've never heard of them before this. And Keean just thinks that's absurd. Like, that can't possibly be. But it is worth, like, going on to the next point. So they also write in their letter, as for the confusion with Tides Foundation in the U.S., here is some info from our website. Despite repeatedly clarifying that we are an independent registered national charity and that Tides US and Tides Canada are distinct organizations with no legal or governance ties, this false depiction continues to be shared. Tides Canada, now Makeway, was indeed inspired by and modeled after Tides US, when the organization was designed in Canada 20 years ago. Here is a longer Q&A. Thanks, and please correct that part of your story that claims Tide US is our parent organization. That is incorrect. So, this is in fact true. So, when Tides Canada got started, they looked at the model of the Tides Foundation in the US and was like, that's the kind of model of the organization that we want to form. And with the consent of Tides, called themselves Tides Canada and promoted similar causes. So they're an environmental organization that promotes environmental causes. Primarily environmental causes. Now, so there's an interesting issue here, which is, one, how much connection to the Tides Foundation does George Soros have? And then how much beyond what we already know is not the case, which is that Tides Canada and Tides Foundation are a parent company. Is there any connection beyond that between Tides Foundation and Tides Canada? And there in fact is, to the extent that Tides Foundation, the American organization, has donated some funds to Tides Canada. Now, the only receipt of funds that I have found has been roughly $70,000 in 2015. Now, you can think of why that might be. So Tides, like any other company or any other nonprofit organization, probably approached the Tides Foundation and applied for grant money that they received. So they received a grant of $70,000 from the Tides Foundation to do work in Canada. Okay? So there is a connection. So here's the other thing. They just constantly claim that George Soros is like president of Tides Foundation or something like relevant to that. But really, like, the relationship is, so George Soros created these other organizations, his own organizations called the Open Society Foundation. Now, the Open Society Foundation, which, again, like George Soros created them, but there's going to be a board and other processes internal to open societies. They themselves donated money to the Tides Foundation. And they donated so from what I could tell, the Open Society Foundation and another George Soros related foundation together donated roughly $20 million to the Tides Foundation over 20 years. So that's like roughly $1 million every year. Roughly. So, the reason why Tides Canada is George Soros connected is because George Soros created an organization which then gave $20 million to the Tides Foundation, and then the Tides Foundation gave $70,000 to Tides Canada, and then Tides Canada, a year ago, happened to be in the same building as Dominion Voting Systems. And therefore...
Trickle-down economics in action.
And therefore, this is obviously a nefarious plot to overthrow the American government by giving the election to Joe Biden.
I just wanted to make a comment, because we've seen this a few times now with these Rebel articles where they share emails or documents and they highlight a specific line without using a very simple effect that blurs out the rest of the document. I don't want to maybe give tips on how to cherry pick properly, but in case we have someone watching, hi Drea, that is possibly something to think about. Is you could avoid a lot of this stuff if you just blurred the rest of the email out.
But they don't even need to blur it out, because even you know that like their audience isn't going to read past what they're feeding them. I mean, like,
No.
beyond that, I mean, like, because I could easily, like, you Google search for the words, key phrases, and I'll find it and all that fun stuff. But you even have, like, recently, Ezra was on Alex Jones, and he was trying to promote this conspiracy theory that the government of Canada was creating these COVID camps, okay? And the plot for the COVID camps was that in the sort of like bill where the government was requesting for like people's like land use and stuff like this, it said something for COVID or related requirements. Or no, it was COVID or other requirements. And so Ezra's like, other requirements? That means they could just start rounding us up. Like the FEMA camps, and we're all going to be like locked in these prisons. But if you go up one paragraph that they even showed on the screen, which was the objectives of the thing that the government of Canada had written, it clearly stated that the other requirements were COVID related. So, and again, they do this shit all the time. It's like, all you have to do is cite that one line that sounds like nefarious and mysterious, and then just like ignore the rest of the context. Ignore it all. And you know that your audience is just going to go along with you and not give a shit. I mean, in this one, even, like, we actually had never heard of Dominion voting systems. It's not even that nefarious. It's just the company going, I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Keean.
I guess just to wrap that point up that I made is that, like, I guess I'm thinking about it in the context of, like, one of their supporters or fans, like, linking it to someone like me or one of us and being like, look at this stuff, like, that's crazy, look at this line that they're centering out. And it's like, oh, dude, just look at the line below that and tell me what it says. And it's like, it's very difficult for them to look anything but stupid after linking something like that.
I mean, they would look stupid to other people around them, except for the other people who, like, already agree with them, right? Because I think, like, they're...
Yeah.
You notice as well, like, this is why they, like, move the goalposts, right? They'll try to, like, once you point out that false information to them, you'll see, if you ever debate these people, you'll see them then shift the conversation to another topic right away, right? Because to them, they have all these nodes of information that are all false, but it's like whack-a-mole, right? You take out the one, and they'll go, what about this? You take out what about this? And you keep going, and then eventually you'll arrive back at this again when you already pointed out that it was wrong.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not a rational belief system that they're engaging in. Like, they just believe this, right? And you're not going to convince them otherwise. They're dead set on the conspiracy that even pointing out how bullshit this is, they won't believe you, right? Somehow the essence of George Soros entered the Tides Foundation, and then through the process of osmosis entered Tides Canada, and therefore by another process of osmosis, by shared office building, transferred into Dominion voting systems, and therefore the whole of the American election, even though Dominion voting systems were not in every state, therefore overthrew the American elections. And I would remind you, the other part of this is Dominion voting systems was in states that Trump won, even swing states like Ohio. So Dominion voting systems had software in Ohio, yet Ohio went to Trump and was a swing state. Conspiracy.
We need to fix that for the next time.
I know. I mean, we're so clever. Like, we got the whole conspiracy worked out, and we just don't have the follow-through all the time. But we'll continue with this.
Not know who your neighbors are, who's working right next to you. Now, many Americans got back to me rightfully worried. Well, what does the Wi-Fi look like here? What does the office sharing look like here? Do they share security personnel?
I'll let you...
What?
He's showing just random, like, so these are the floor plans of the building, but they're, like, not even for the office space in which they occupied. It's just, like, so my guess is these are currently vacant office floor plans that when you call the company, this is what they'll give you for what you could rent, right? But, like, look, my God, they're floor plans. They could be sharing office space together. I think he... I think he even mentions, like, could they be sharing Wi-Fi? And then I think he says filing cabinets. Let's listen to this again.
Rightfully worried. Well, what does the Wi-Fi look like here? What does the office sharing look like here? Do they share security personnel? Do they share filing cabinets? We don't know because they won't answer us. Dominion Voting isn't being clear about this at all. They've put a lineup of things on their
Security
website
personnel?
refuting things that have been reported even by the mainstream media, even by Fox News in the United
Yes, because, sharing security personnel means that clearly you've colluded in one of the biggest election conspiracies of all time.
Yes, it would only make sense if Tides and Dominion employed separate security guards to watch the same door.
Yeah.
Well, and also that the assumption that they have security guards for a software company and
Right.
a charity, like
Oh,
they
yeah,
have
they
like G4S and Blackwater,
yeah, they have to make sure that the Soros checks go out properly, and they
It's even like the whole notion of a shared filing cabinet system. Like, what? How would this be practical at all? They're two separate entities. Like, clearly there's going to be, like, walled spaces separating these two groups. But somehow they would have shared filing cabinets. Because, of course, Keean, you cracked the code.
I love it.
sometimes their workers pass each other in the stairwell going to work.
They might be exchanging notes. I love this whole idea of, like, Dominion and George Soros are engaged in the greatest steal of an American election. And it's being brought down by Keean Bexte at Rebel News because they had shared Wi-Fi. Fucking amazing.
For suspected share Wi-Fi. Because he's admitting he's speculating right now. He wants to get to the bottom of it.
What do? They share Wi-Fi? Share
Share-
security guards? Filing cabinets?
Yeah,
They share coffee?
they drop the,
Share
like, rig the election file into the cabinet, and then Dominion opens up the other cabinet and goes, holy shit, the Tides Foundation wants us to rig the election.
our suspicions were aroused when we saw that the Wi-Fi network name was Soros is cool password Biden for Prez.
That's the weirdest thing about, like, all the election conspiracy stuff is that, like, you think that the radical leftists rigged the election for fucking Joe Biden?
Yeah.
Like,
Do you want to know what's amazing? So the claim that Sidney Powell made about Venezuela is so amazing. So she tried to connect Dominion voting systems to Hugo Chavez. So the first thing, where this is obviously not true, is the company that she was thinking of was, I believe, called Smartmatic, and they are a direct competitor of Dominion voting systems. So the two companies are not the same, and they compete with each other for government bids to get the contract. Right? So, that being said, they're not the same company at all. Now, Smartmatic is a Florida-based company whose two founders were from Venezuela. And that's it. They never knew Chavez, never worked with him. Nothing. Yet, because they're Venezuelan, that's why it's Hugo Chavez. Is that not amazing? And you would get that information from, so not this page that Keean is showing. Keean right now, he's scrolling through. This is as soon as you go to DominionVotingSystems.com, or excuse me, I think it's DominionVotingSystems.com. When you go to their website, this is immediately on their front page because of what they're dealing with right now. And it's got all the information, all the certification process that they had to go through in the American government through both Republican and Democratic legislatures to be able to implement their software in these districts. And again, it shows that they have actually no connection to any voting data whatsoever. So none of the data, so all the voting that took place in Pennsylvania, it doesn't go through Dominion voting systems at all. It stays in the state. And it's like auditable and all that fun stuff. And it gives you all that information right on the front page of their website because they're having to deal with all this bullshit. including the fact that there's absolutely zero connection to Venezuela. Oh, it's wonderful.
God.
United States saying, no, that's all fake news. But when we got here to uncover how close they are to both George Soros and other left-wing organizations, it was nothing but hush-hush from them. Now, we came here today not just to talk about George Soros and his connections to the people and businesses inside of this building, but to talk about everyone else, and something that a girl told me here in the lobby just yesterday. Listen to this.
Famous Great Wall.
Huh.
So it attracts a lot of people to the government.
Oh yeah.
It's all, most of these companies are all about sustainability. So
Most of the-
matches.
Sorry, didn't hear you.
Most of these companies are about sustainability.
Gotcha.
Well, that got me thinking. Maybe I should look into the other businesses, not just the obvious Tides Foundation, this nefarious organization that has its hands in all sorts of intersectional gender eco-politics. What about the other people in this building? Are they leftists as well? Are they extreme radicals like the
So, are they extreme radicals like the Tides Foundation? So, I just want to state this gender eco thing. Like, I have no fucking clue what he's talking about. The from what I can see, based on the Tides Foundation's website, is they mostly donate to environmental causes. And like one of the main things that they donate to is they donate to indigenous communities to test their water supplies. Which, if you don't know anything about Canada, is a really good fucking thing to do because the government is not doing this. Right? So here's the thing. For example, during the reason why I had to figure this out actually was because during the heightened tensions with the Wet'suwet'en, Rebel tried to connect Wet'suwet'en to the Tides Foundation. And so there was a video with this other asshole named Pat King, who's a Western separatist who wants Alberta to separate from the rest of Canada, who's also said stuff regarding white genocide and all this fun stuff. He went and interviewed one of the hereditary chiefs from the Wet'suwet'en tribe, and Pat questioned him about the Tides Foundation, and what came out was that they received limited funds from the Tides Foundation, like a couple $1,000s, and it's all it goes to. So like the argument that Pat King was trying to make was this George Soros funded organization is clearly going to the activist end of the Wet'suwet'en trying to block this pipeline. And what they showed in the paperwork was like, look, it's stipulated by the government and how this money gets transferred to us that it explicitly has to only be spent on the water testing. It can't be used for any other purposes. So that's that's basically what the Tides Foundation does throughout most of Canada. So if you go even on the Tides Foundation's website, Tides Foundation Canada, which is now Makeway, and you scroll down and you can find they're open. They list all the places which they give grants out to communities, and they're almost all Indigenous communities and all for water testing. But they're eco, gender, radical leftists. Or whatever the fucking thing.
They're gonna start blowing up pipelines.
Yeah. Which, granted, like I personally would not care if they were giving money to the Wet'suwet'en to like bomb rail tracks or something. That would not bother me at all. That being said,
I wish.
They're not. Yeah, because like they're a liberal charity, and here's the thing: is I still like the fact that this liberal charity is donating money to these communities. I wish the government was doing a better job at doing it. You know?
Jody, you know what else is a liberal charity?
Yeah.
We?
Oh, the We charity. Oh, no. Oh, hello, Clara. Tell my stream hello. Oh, did you raid me? If you raided me, I don't know. It hasn't done the raid thing. Or maybe I won't get a notification for the raid. But hello, stream. Hello, Claire stream. Oh, I'm live on your stream. Oh, wow. This is like Twitch Inception.
Be on your best behavior.
Well, we're watching a conspiracy linking the Dominion Voting Systems, which is a company based in an office building in Toronto, and how they rigged the American election. And so now what we're going to find out is Keean Bexte is going to inform us about all the other companies that are in this building and why this Dominion voting system is clearly a radical leftist plot to overthrow the American government.
Question though. Question. He was talking to that girl. He was holding the coffee. Do you think he got it from the coffee shop that's in that building?
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity.
Well, that's.
I want to figure out all the layers of connection. I need to know how deep this goes. Is there fluoride in that coffee to control Keean Bexte's mind? We need to know.
I do. Oh, I forgot to mention. Like, there is a cool living wall in that building, right? So they showed the living wall with the.
I'm a patron, so I could join the server. Hello.
Oh shit.
Hello.
Hello, Claire. I mean, you were a dollar patron. Technically, you're not allowed, but I'll forgive you.
Damn it. Then why do I have the permission?
Because I'm not good at Discord.
We're lazy.
I was supposed to set it up so that only the $10 above can get in, but I'm not good. So I don't mind you here, but that's.
I don't know. I was just with my chat, and I was like, "Hey, what's Jody up to?" So I came over to say hi. I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm sure
no
everyone
problem.
here you're all wonderful people. I'm gonna get out of your hair now. I hope you all have a good day.
Well, if you're still on, we will raid you when this is done. But
okay.
I don't know when that will be.
I don't either.
But I appreciate sharing me with your stream. Very much appreciated.
Okay.
And you are welcome here. It's the $10
Well, now
above.
when I'm in,
Sorry.
now when I'm in it, it's like behind. So it's like you're talking to me now. I'm watching you drink a beer.
Yes, actually, I'm drinking a grapefruit radler, a very alcohol light but summer treat. It's usually a summer drink. I don't know. Is a radler a summer drink? It's usually associated with that. It tastes lovely though. It's very refreshing. But we're gonna go on. We're gonna find out all the crazy left-wing radical companies that work in this building.
You got to do a thing. We should do a thing together on Anna Slats.
Oh, yes.
She is something. She blows my mind. She is like the best grifter I've ever seen.
Yeah, is she? So she's. Oh, this is so off topic, but I want to ask you anyways. Is she a communist? She self-describes as a communist, but what's the deal with that?
When she was 12, as far as I know, I've dug through her Twitter. When she was 12 years old, she was a member of the Young Communist League of Canada.
And that's it? Like that's
as far as I can tell her history with communism. She still identifies as a communist, even though none of her talking points are communist. And she writes for The Rebel.
Yeah, well,
and she's friends with Ezra Levant.
Like, unless she's
what chapter of the YCL was she with?
Shit, it was like...
I know she went to university in New Brunswick, but I don't know if that's...
It's like somewhere out in the... Yeah, it's like somewhere out there. I don't know what chapter.
Well, I'm like, unless she's like some kind of like weird Nazbol or something like this. I'm just confused at why.
I don't know.
Any
I've seen like her Twitter.
Would,
She doesn't make it clear at all how she actually believes in communism as much as she just likes dunking on communists.
Well, yeah. I mean, but it's not only that. I mean, like, I think I saw her in one video say something like she's in favor of redistribution in some sense, which will ignore the fact that that's not necessarily communist. But there's a way, like, she goes from that to say, like, I'm clearly communist, but then it's like the only thing she seems to agree with Rebel by her own, like, self-stated principles is her turfy bullshit. But even then, like, imagine, like, just agreeing with someone because, like, you share some turfy stuff and then going, yeah, I'll ally with fascists even though I'm a communist. Like, that makes no sense to me. Which it's clear, like, it's clearly not coming from a place of reasoned introspection. It's, like, clearly just a grift, you know?
I think honestly it's I don't know what her motives are, but I know that at least from the perspective of the Rebel, I think the reason they were so happy to have Anna on is because having a self-described communist as part of the Rebel, they can say that they're now a nonpartisan organization. Like, look, we're not far right. Look, we have a communist on. Communists are as far left as you can come.
They honestly have not done that yet from the content that I've seen. However, what they have done is every single time they bring her up, they go communist Anna Slats. You know?
Right.
Which is like, I wonder if they're like eventually going to build up to that they're nonpartisan. But I guess like, I don't know, they're pretty open about their conservatism. That it like, I don't know, like I don't think that they're going to try to pretend to be this nonpartisanness. It's more of just like, look, we have a resident communist.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know the reason Anna does this, or even how she is a communist.
Like honestly, it feels like a suit, like she's just putting on the dress. You know what I mean? Like, look, I'm a communist. It's there's nothing.
It seems like that's what she's doing.
Yeah.
Because like I've seen her, she makes fun of communists and say like all the Western communists are all like a bunch of soy boy beta cucks, you know, like going on the whole like Paul Joseph Watson spiel. Yeah. But at the same time, you know, there's plenty of communists around the world that are more socially conservative, but she doesn't seem to support them either.
Yeah. So I'll say this to you then, Claire.
Yes.
And everyone should go check out Claire's stream as well. Which you're now, what is your name? Your Keffels?
Yeah, I will also link to my people, Imperial News.
Yeah, throw your Twitch in the chat, and then I'll also send people your way when we're done if you're still doing it. But I will say, if I find a good Anna video, I will bring you on and we could talk about Anna Slats. The thing is, the reason why we haven't covered her, and we've barely covered her on the podcast either, is she's barely done anything for them. The most that she did was she went to one of the Black Lives Matter thing right when it was starting, and she got arrested in New York, swept up by the police.
Damn.
But and so what we covered was the fact that Rebel always takes pride in the fact that their employees constantly get arrested, and so she was in that list of employees that got arrested. But beyond that, she hasn't done much for them at all. So if she does do something, she produces a video, I'll bring you on and we can dunk on the slats.
God, yeah, I've been wanting to do that. Hey, you got one of my followers.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Tot to trot.
Solid.
That being said, I'm gonna let. Yeah, I'll let you do your stream. It's nice to meet everyone here.
Thanks, Clara.
All right.
Have fun. Enjoy your stream.
Bye.
All right, where were we? Oh yeah, we're gonna find all the other left-wing organizations that were in the building. Back to Keean.
The Tides Foundation? Well, I looked into it. It turns out the people, organization, and businesses and charities in this building have a habit of sharing. Personnel, mainly. The new Tides CEO actually happened to be the president of AWID. That's another organization that is in this building. Isn't that strange that they just sort of leapfrog in between each other, almost like they all have a shared goal, a shared purpose, and a shared ideology? Well, it gets...
So, he found a LinkedIn profile for the current president of the Make Way Foundation and noticed that she used to be involved with another charity that is also located in this building. Now, he's like, it's almost like they have a shared ideology. Now, why do you think they might have a shared ideology? What is the AWID? So it's an association for women's rights and development. And even on the screen that Keean posted themselves, it says transforming it into an influential gender and women's rights advocacy organization for which it was awarded a leadership prize for blah, blah, blah. And then it goes, Joanna has held senior positions with Oxfam Canada, where she spearheaded its Women and Climate campaign. Women and Climate campaign. And the North-South Institute, where she was researching, writing, and influencing international policy and processes for women's rights, etc. So here's someone who is engaged in a lot of feminist activism, has experience with charities, and also has an interest in climate change and has worked on that issue, and is now the CEO and president of Make Way Foundation, which is itself an environmental charity. Now, They do share a building together. But is it really that nefarious that this person who used to lead one association would apply for a job for this other charity? Is that really like such a nefarious plot or a jump or a stretch here?
How dare people work in fields that they have worked in previously?
Yes. I do want to say, they don't go over it, but if you look at some of these other companies here too. So we already have the Dark Horse Espresso Bar, which is the coffee place.
The logo for Dark Horse Espresso looks so good. Like, it showed it just like a little bit before this, I think.
Yeah, it
which
was
like
at the top, because I think it's at the top of the page.
That is a nice... That looks great. That looks very communist, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. And also I love, so Sonic Boom. You might go, what is Sonic Boom? That's an indie vinyl record store that sells vinyl record players. And clearly.
In fairness to Keean, it is looking very left in that building suddenly.
So, yeah, but here's the thing is, what did the person say that he met in the hallway? That this is like a building that's like big on sustainability, right? So who's attracted to issues of sustainability? It's clearly going to be people who are like somewhat left of the spectrum.
Yes, of course. No, it'd be conservative. Obviously conservative. They have conservative in the name, Jody. Obviously they're going to care about sustainability.
Like the vinyl record store. It's like, okay, they're going to appeal to some sort of like hippity-dippity environmental demographic, which is like, okay, that's what they appeal to. But that doesn't mean that everything in here is like definitely 100% a left-wing company. Like, I don't know if you want to describe a record store company as explicitly left-wing. They're just selling vinyl records, you know?
I think we should go through company by company and mandate them an ideology. Like, I think Sonic Boom's probably anarchists. Dark Horse Espresso Bar is definitely like...
I don't know.
Like Marxist-Leninist. Workhouse is probably like a council communist. Like,
yeah, but Workhouse sounds kind of German.
They're actually Dutch. They just don't like to let it on because that's a silly language.
Yeah, we are actually. Keean's going to do a rundown for us, so we can. Not all of them, of course. I mean, but again, it's clearly going to be selective what he's going through. But let's just listen to all the radical companies that he's going to go through here.
Frog in between each other, almost like they all have a shared goal, a shared purpose, and a shared ideology. Well, it gets even worse than that. It's not just the personnel that all of these businesses in this leftist incubator share, they also share an ideology. Now, let's talk about Sustainalytics. They are a left-wing corporate watchdog. Springtide Resources, they're a woke anti-violence agency. AWID, they're gender activists. Artez Interactive, well, that's an NGO fundraiser. Teach for Canada, they're Indigenous activist teachers. AV Communications, well, they're a minority-focused ad agency. Then you have Tides Canada, an organization whose parent company is Tides in the United States. In San Francisco, they're outright communists. All of those people you have in this incubator building right behind me with a nice little eco wall. And then you have Dominion Voting, the company that has an ungodly amount of control over who sits in the Oval Office.
I love it. I love it.
I love the pouting music too.
Wing.
Yeah. No, I like the vinyl record store. I mean, they have a shared goal, so I'm guessing all the vinyls they sell are just like when you backmask them and you play them backwards, people are like, vote for Joe Biden.
No, it's just the Soviet anthem.
I did want to say so. Keean obviously is adding a bit of flourish. So, like, for example, the one company that he's like a woke anti-violence like group. So it basically is a group that is protecting women and LGBTQ folk from domestic violence situations, which is like, if you want to describe that as a woke anti-violence group, fine, but I support them. Like, shit. But the one that like is my favorite is this AV Communications, which he described as a minority advertising thing. And the the thing is, they represent or they are their services are purchased by some pretty like big name companies. You know, I'm gonna try to pull it up here to see what we got. AV Communications here. I think if you scroll down to the bottom there, it gives you a list of so a list of companies that use AV Communications. We got Royal Ontario Museum, H&M, Western Union, Bank of Montreal, some company called Mac, Randstad, the province of Ontario. We got Ferrari, Winners, Elizabeth Arden, Arbor Memorial. So like, it's a sort of like a mix of both like governmental organizations, but also big name companies. Ferrari, they represent Ferrari, or they work for Ferrari. So it's like to sell this as like a left-wing group when it's like this is like the woke brand stuff. You know what I mean? This is like capitalism trying to appeal to a more diverse audience, which obviously is in capitalists' best interest. It doesn't make them left-wing, right?
Don't you know the major corporations are all left-wing these days?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's their argument, but I mean, I think one of the other companies that's in this building, I can't remember which one it was, but one of the companies works for Walmart. Like, I don't even think they would ascribe Walmart as one of the left-leaning corporations. Or maybe they will, but they still donate to right-wing causes, right? And yet they still might want to utilize an advertising agency that will then create ads for them that promote diversity. Because maybe it sells more. Which is why it's like, this is like the whole critique of woke brands. It's like, they're doing it because they know it's going to sell more product. They're not doing it because they actually have a position on things like Black Lives Matter. As much as when I sign into my EA games and it'll say Black Lives Matter, I'm pretty sure EA Games is not doing all that much for Black Lives Matter. They just want you to perceive them as super caring for that community.
Do they sound like an impartial business to you? Does this maybe explain why we are seeing so much irregularity in the vote in the United States? I think it does shed some light on it. I think it sheds some perspective on the modus operandi
I love the music
of Dominion voting. They need to answer some questions here,
The
because
modus
we've
operandi.
exposed something very nefarious indeed. Not just their close ties to George Soros, someone who gives millions upon millions of dollars to the Tides Foundation, someone who spends as much of his money and capital as possible on making sure that leftist politicians are elected across the world. What are they doing in an incubator with the rest of these leftist organizations, and why didn't they get office space literally anywhere else on planet Earth? Why right here? Was their office space subsidized by George Soros? Well, it's a question worth asking, isn't it?
What? Are you
Why
just
they
random
choose
people on the street now?
Why'd they choose this office? George Soros pay them? Did he offer them hookers and coke? What did he do? We're just asking questions.
So he's like, why couldn't they have just gone anywhere else? And so I'd like to tell everyone that Dominion Voting Systems doesn't just have an office in Toronto. They have things elsewhere. And so I came up with my own deep state theory. You want to hear it? So I'm going to pull it over here. So I found out that, I can't remember. It's like 1801. No, that's 1901. 1801. Okay. 1801 Lawrence Street, Denver is one of their other locations, and it's in the United States. It's in Denver, Colorado. So like they're inside the system they're trying to corrupt. They have an office there, and that office is shared. We can zoom in. We can zoom in the map. So this is the building here. We're going to zoom in, and there's other companies in there. Now they're not listed here, so you got to search for them. And I think, what was it called? Let me back out of it. Let's go. Actually, Street View, because I can't remember the name. So we can go in. Zoom in. Where's the little person for Street View? Where are you? There you are. All right. Now we're going to go in. We're gonna deep state this. All right, we're gonna go in. All right, we're on the street now. We're looking at the building. Okay. Oh, we want to go forward. Oh, what's that? What's that? Oh, it's urban putt. Urban putt.
Is it a mini golf place?
All right, let's search that out. Let's go urban putt, Denver. Holy shit, it's a mini golf place. But look at the symbolism.
Yeah.
Look at that symbol. That is a deep state octopus sending its tentacles out into the world. It's the globalist plot. Look at this evil looking horse. Look at that. It's such an evil horse. Clearly, George Soros.
I was gonna say, how much money did Soros give them for that horse? How much?
Yeah. So that was my own plot. I mean, like, listen, the early conspiracy theorists about globalization. A lot of the symbolism for the globalists was the tentacles of the octopus. So, like, I mean, come on, it's clearly a George Soros funded mini putt. We're gonna create our own like leftist Pizzagate version, but it has to do with George Soros hiding symbols in mini putt places.
I love that concept mostly because, like, the Nazis created propaganda that Jewish people were like an octopus that had its tentacles all over. And so, of course, George Soros appropriated that symbol.
So he could spread his tentacles throughout the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. But it's the point. It's like they have buildings elsewhere. So for like Keean to be on his high horse being like, they could have put their building anywhere else and they chose here. Why? It's like, I don't know. It was a cool office building and they needed somewhere to go. But they chose it for the Tides Foundation, only to have the Tides Foundation leave the building a year ago. And now we're going to get Keean. This is the greatest. I fucking love this. Some rando on the fucking street. Here it goes.
We're just wondering if what sort of the ideology is of the businesses who work in there.
I'm running late for a meeting and I don't want to talk.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry?
I'm sorry. I'm running late for a meeting and I don't want to
Oh, it's okay. We'll just walk. Where do you work for Dominion Voting at all?
Holy fuck. Just this random
Do you work for
person.
Dominion Voting?
I didn't consent to this video.
Do you work for Dominion Voting? If not, we'll leave you alone.
Well, no, but I just don't know why you're
This
coming
is
to me and you're asking me questions if I didn't.
This is fucking
No,
harassment,
it's not a
is what it is.
consent
Yeah.
thing here on a public sidewalk. But if you do work for Dominion Voting, we are certainly interested to talk to you. Why do you think Dominion Voting chose a leftist incubator to set up office, to set up shop? There is not only the Tides Foundation funded by George Soros, there's a ton of other green, pro, LGBT leftist activists in that building. Why would Dominion Voting set up shop there? Shouldn't they be impartial? Now, she wasn't very talkative, but I will point out that the moment I asked her, do you work for Dominion Voting, she froze and she wouldn't answer. And I told her, if you don't work for Dominion Voting, you can just say no and leave you alone. But no, she couldn't say that because I think she does work for Dominion Voting. Unfortunately, it's hard to tell. Yesterday, there were a few of them walking around with masks on.
Oh my god!
Weird. It's almost like she said no, and then you kept going.
But she wouldn't answer my questions, so she clearly worked for this company. Even though there's like many, like you saw the list of companies in this building. He just followed one woman out of the fucking building and started like barraging her with deep questions.
Well, I don't want to ascribe anything to Keean, but is he gonna cost this woman right here too?
I wish, but he didn't share it with us.
It might have made him look bad to accost two random women who don't look particularly white. Yeah, not good, Keean.
No, it's messed up, very messed up. I also like somehow her refusal to respond to him is evidence of her guilt somehow. But yeah, just to pick a random person and then Ask her questions. That's the journalism here. That's the ambush journalism. And it is harassment. Here's the thing is, you gotta wonder, like, why do they keep getting arrested? Because that's not legal, even for journalism. Like, you're not allowed to just pick a random person on the street and harass them and, like, stalk them. That's not allowed. That is harassment. And in fact, if, like, people had money and could probably take them to court and sue them and get a restraining order against them, because that is harassment. Keean, that you want to hide it in your journalism because you're a fucking creep? Oh my god. I also love, like, the editing of this, because all of a sudden in the middle of this, like, the volume of the clip just went then went back down. So, you know, they clearly have experts working at all steps of the rebel news organization. But yeah, it's fucking creepy.
And so it was pretty easy to ID them because they had company swag on, but I guess they've gotten a little bit smarter as of, well, today. Unfortunately for them, we're going to...
He doesn't play her audio, but I almost want to, like, as if she's like, go fuck yourself. That would be amazing. Yeah, just harassing people.
Stick to this, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. Why is Dominion Voting sharing so much space with so many leftists? Why didn't they pick literally anywhere on planet Earth to set up shop? Why did they pick where George Soros' operations are hiding out? Why did they pick where eco-green, pro-LGBT, pro-immigration, pro all of these leftist sort of soft ideology points? Why set up there and not somewhere else? That's an answer that Dominion Voting hasn't given. And for some reason, the mainstream media isn't interested in this at all. But I can tell you, Americans are. The video that we published just yesterday has reached hundreds of thousands of views because people want to know.
I gotta say, as an American, I don't care. You need to get this shit out of my face, honestly.
I love the montage of clips previously shown in the past 8 minutes.
There's so much to uncover that they have to go over feed they've already used. I love, too, like, the impression that the mainstream media won't cover this. I just covered it. Why do you think the mainstream media is not going to cover it? Because there's absolutely nothing here. It is such a nothing story, there's no point in covering it. Now, of course, they get to use that as propagandistic ways of telling people, oh, like, look, no one's covering it, so therefore we're onto it. We're the ones doing the investigative journalism. We're figuring it out. Did they figure out anything in this fucking video? What did they uncover? That they uncovered that the Tides Foundation had their name removed from an office they left a year ago. Great work, Keean. Oh, and they uncovered that all these other companies are sustainable companies, but
about the integrity that is now in question of Dominion Voting, why they're setting up with leftist organizations when they're supposed to be the most impartial organization involved in the American election. But no, it doesn't seem like we can trust them. Their slogan, I'll point out, is accurate, reliable, transparent. And right now, well, like I said yesterday, they're being anything but those three things. Hi there, how are you?
Gotcha.
Good, how are you?
Great. So we were just hanging out here waiting to...
line Canada flag mask. Holy shit.
There's that, and there is... This is all Keean wanted to show. I don't know why. He's just going to say hi to a cop.
But those three things. Hi there, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great. So we were just hanging out here waiting to speak with some folks who work in this building, whether they're for meeting or otherwise, and we spoke to one.
You nailed it.
But the police officer just came out again, and it wasn't the same one from yesterday. And we had a quick conversation with him, trying to figure out what he was doing here, and he wasn't very talkative. And I would play it again, but we played it yesterday, and frankly, I have no beef with these cops. If they're hired by someone, they're just trying to make, a quick buck, and that's fine for them. I have no beef with the police at all. Seems like they've been polite to us, so I want to be polite to them. But I want to know, why is Dominion Voting so scared? So scared of having journalists ask questions. They say that they're all about transparency. It's the third word in their slogan, but it doesn't seem that way from the outside.
Maybe because they're getting death threats? Maybe?
I can't wait for the Revolutionary Tribunal that sentences Keean to death.
I do. What did he say? They're just out to make a quick buck?
Yeah, he thinks the cops are hired. Like,
Amazing. They're not private security, Keean. Come on.
No, they're
How
responding.
taxes work.
I bet you any money what happened, it was one of these people on the streets was all like, there's this asshole harassing our employees on the fucking street.
Yeah, can you go figure out what this asshole's doing, please? Like, what's up?
Oh
Just
my
want to
god.
go to work.
It's so embarrassing. And him being like, I'm not going to play the stuff that I showed in our last episode, even though he's been showing clips of what they filmed earlier in the day in the same clip. Anyways, fucking, we're going to get to the climax, if you will, of this entire video.
On the wall, it says that there's space for lease here. I'm going to
there's
call them and
space for
see
lease?
who they're kind of marketing space to. When Dominion Voting got space here in this building, who did they talk to, and why did they choose this building? That's really what I want to determine. So I'm going to try and pretend like I'm a business wanting space here and see what they say about the tenants who are actually here right now.
So he's going to call the dude leasing the building, but I want to say he wants to ask them, he wants to figure out two things. What are the types of people this office space company is looking for? And what does it say about the other people that are in the building? Now, I can think of ways in which you want to get at that question or elucidate that question in a very like rigorous manner. I just wanted to prime our audience to notice how Keean's going to go about this task to try to elucidate this information. I also want to say, Keean here is going to lie on the phone to this person and claim he's looking for space in an office. And I also think that is unethical journalistic tactics, to be honest. But we'll talk about that when we're done witnessing what's just about to occur.
Hi there, we're looking at office space for 215 Spadina. We're wondering if this is the right number.
I'm actually going to put you through to my partner, Maya Olick.
Okay.
But before I do, just what's your requirement?
Probably anything more than 1,000 square feet. Anything? More than 1,000 square feet, less than 1,500.
And what type of business do you guys operate?
Calling.
Sorry?
Just calling.
What did you say?
Phone calling.
Just calling.
Like a
Phone calling.
center?
Yeah, but it's more digital.
Got it. Yeah, we certainly have that space. So let me get Maya on the line, and she can talk you through the availability.
Cool. Before we do that, we're looking at a few spaces, but we're hoping for something a little bit more sustainability oriented. And we saw the green wall in the lobby, and we just sort of see that there's other businesses there that are sustainability oriented, and we're wondering if there's sort of like a community.
So the building formerly was the home of what was it called? The Community of Social Innovation, and the Green Wall is certainly a purposeful amenity to the building because it is one that speaks to the driver of the building and the ownership consortium of the building, which is to create sustainable spaces.
We don't want to be we very carefully maintain our reputation as not involving ourselves with sort of anything. How do I put this? Like right wing.
Associating yourself with what?
I don't know how to. Like we're more of a left-leaning organization, and we want to make sure that our peers and community members also reflect sort of our values. So we just want to make sure that this is sort of the right fit.
Yeah, certainly would be. You can see that by the tenants, and how the building.
Look at his face. It's like, we're gonna get it.
A community and environment first building.
For more left-wing folks.
Can't say left or right wing. I can only say in terms of drivers, but
yeah, for sure.
Certainly, I think it aligns with what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, great.
Amazing.
I want to kill myself after watching that.
Hi, you're trying to sell your office space. I'm a potential client. I'm going to say things that I want. Can you tell me honestly that I'm going to get it? Thank you.
Well, think about like the incentive of like the person who's trying to sell this building. You think they're gonna be like, no, we're not looking for left wing people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're gonna try to sell this fucking space to him, and like for him. But you can also tell that the guy's like weirded out by it. He's like, I don't know the fucking politics of the people who rent this space.
Actually, we only lease this building to fascists, sorry.
Yeah. It's like, oh, the vinyl company? I don't know what politics they have. I could assume.
We make you take a political alignment quiz, and if you're to the left of Mussolini, then I'm sorry, you're just not getting in.
Oh my god. So that's his big scoop. But then you noticed in the middle of that phone call, he name checked something, and so now Keean's gonna go back to it. So
now, hold on a moment. I didn't actually know who the Center for Social Innovation was until I got back to the office and was able to Google them. Turns out they're a leftist commune. They rent out desk space and office space to small left-wing startups. Kind of exactly what we thought this building was all about. They host seminars on how to be an ally, anti-blackness at the intersections, which means they're really intersectional radicals. Now, who does that sound more like? Donald Trump or Joe Biden? You actually have to sign up to get with this group to be accepted in their commune. And somehow Dominion just happens to be working in CSI's building. CSI's been operating since 2004, and Dominion has been in that building since 2013. Now, I don't know what's going on here, but I think we're on the right track.
Okay. So he's describing this thing as a commune, okay? Now just wait. He's also saying that Dominion is in the same building as these people. And I want to just scroll back to the phone call so you can see exactly the words that this person says.
How the building is managed, that it's definitely a community.
Oh, fuck, I think I went too far. Let's go,
of the building, which is to create, sustainable spaces.
We don't want to. We don't want to be a. We.
No, I missed it. Oh, fuck. Anyways, if I can find it, he basically says that it was, oh yeah, so here it is. So the building was formally. What does formally mean? Not anymore.
It's formerly.
Formerly the home of what was it called? And then he goes, Community of Social Innovation.
Just to clarify, formally and formerly are different things. So I feel like they messed up that closed captioning.
So what's the difference that you're making?
Formally, the word they put up there, and formerly. I think they screwed that one up, guys.
I didn't even see the spelling error, but that's fantastic.
Drea, if you're watching this, go ring up Keean and let him know.
No, Drea's doing the the typing. But what I heard from him was formally. We can listen to it. But
no. He was definitely saying formerly, as in the building was previously the formerly owned by this other group. It's just that Keean can't put that.
So we got Center for Social Innovation. So let's look at this. Center for Social Innovation. Let's see how radical this looks, all right? I know you're all like terrified right now because you're like, oh God, communism is coming into our office space buildings. Look at that image. All these people sitting around in like on their laptops and like in a communal space. Like how communist is this? So for those who don't know, this is not leftist communes. What it is this group, Center for Social Innovation, what it seems like they're about is they purchase spaces within office buildings that are supposed to promote communal activity. And so then it's like a club, almost like you pay a fee to go to a gym. You pay a fee to let your employees intermingle in these spaces. And the idea is to create the kind of vibe that you would get at like a university, right? Which is that, you know, after class, everyone's hanging out in the library kind of vibe. And I don't know if they work as intended, but I guess the idea is you have all these different companies in this building that are all vaguely similar, pro-sustainability. And the point of having this open space is to get everyone down there for lunch or whatnot and to hash, like, cross-talk about, like, the stuff they do at their jobs and, like, maybe get information from them such that it'll help inspire you to innovate and create new things, right? Now, does that sound like a left-wing commune? It doesn't to me. It just sounds... Because there's these kind of spaces, even like downtown London, Ontario, where we live. These things have been popping up all over the place. They even kind of sound like that one scammy company that got called out in the United States. I can't remember their name. But it was a guy who was just like creating these like tech bro spaces in places and selling it as that, but it was just basically office space. But this is all this is. This is the left-wing commune. Now, of course, like, they're a company, so they promote things like diversity, and they're not going to be discriminatory. You can even rent these spaces if you want to, like, throw a party of some kind. You can rent the space. Yeah, that's all this is. That's all this is.
Uber is a left-wing transportation commune because it encourages sharing rides.
Oh my god. And that's it. That's the conspiracy theory. All these companies are somehow left-wing evil companies. They shared space with Dominion voting. Therefore, Dominion voting through the election for Joe Biden. How convinced are you? Are you convinced? Are you in on it?
I'm in on it, not in the way you mean.
Are we gonna, you know... And here's the thing is, so this, when was the video made? November 20th. So it's November 27th now, and Trump has all but conceded. There's not enough lawsuits going to the top that's going to overturn this thing. And to this day, they've yet to turn over a shred of evidence that there's been any voter fraud whatsoever. In fact, if I read correctly, one of the recounts returned extra votes for Joe Biden. Again, only like 100 votes. But that's the thing. Recounts have never in their history turned over thousands of votes. So most of Biden's leads are like 10,000, 8,000. There's no way that Trump's going to somehow gain these through any recounting or auditing. And so, and pretty much they're not pursuing it the right way through the legal courts. And so it's likely, if all things go according to plan, according to the legal system in the United States, Joe Biden is going to be the next president. But my guess is we're never going to hear the end about how Dominion is a George Soros Venezuelan front that threw the election to Joe Biden. Because fascists don't care about information or evidence or rationality. They don't care. But we care, which is why we went through this video. And witnessed Keean Bexte harassing people in the street, because that's what he does. So that is the end of our chat this time. I will say, I do plan in the future to do Rebel adjacent content, not Rebel specific stuff. And by adjacent, I mean political stuff, but not necessarily covering what comes up on the show, and stream that like maybe midweek, because I have things that I want to say about that. I also want to say the podcast is coming. We're delayed a bit because Caitlin had some health issues. She's fine, but she's recovering. And so we've been delayed on releasing the podcast. But we've got a whole bunch of... I got all the scripts and stuff prepared. It's just a matter of sitting down and being able to record them with her and then editing them and putting them out. But which is why I can still do this, but we haven't recorded the podcast in a bit. So that's it. I think that's all I have to inform on. I guess the other thing is I can promote my my Patreon if anyone is interested. So all the voices you hear here, it was Ken, Vienno, and Elron. They've all donated to the patron. And anyone who donates at the $10 or above patron level, they will gain access to the voice chat. So you can join us and have a chat. I put the link in the chat, the Twitch chat. I also have been promoting this every single time, so I'm going to continue to do it. I'll get $14.92 Land Back Lane Legal Fund. You should also donate to that as well, because they need it. They also keep sending out tweets, so you should follow them on Twitter. They're going to need things come this winter, given the ongoing confrontation they are having with the colonizers of Haldimand County. So they're looking for supplies. Go support them if you can. I know it's COVID, and that's a little bit difficult, but it is what it is. Do what you can. Any last words from the people in the voice chat before I raid someone?
None.
Keean will face revolutionary justice one day.
Yeah. And also say, I mentioned it last week, but I'll do it again. Alround has a great video on some of the anti-massacre people. You should go check that out. And we're going to raid Clara, just like I said. So now I got to make sure that I get her name right, because she changed the name of her channel.
We got one of those new purple mattresses.
Because it's all capitals. Keffels. Keffels? All right. Hope that I do this correctly. / raid Keffels. Just one last time, make sure that I spelled it correctly, so we're not just going to the wrong spot. Is it all? Maybe I should all capitalize it, because that's how she does it. Keffels. All right. There you go. Thank you for tuning in. It was a great experience.
It was an experience.
It was an experience. It was.
Say goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Guess I gotta wait 10 seconds to raid. Here we go.
We got Tony in the general.